All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Absolutely.
You know what we're going to do today?
Yeah.
We're going to dive deep into the fall of Lucifer.
Very interesting topic.
It is so interesting. And you know what? It's always fascinated me. I mean, even when I was a kid, this idea that, like, you know, the devil was once like an angel and all this stuff, and then he fell from heaven and, like, became sick.
Became the ultimate bad guy.
It's a great story, right?
Right.
So
really interesting stuff.
Get ready to uncover, you know, the origins of evil.
Right.
Like, explore the dangers of pride.
Yeah.
And really try to understand how, you know, even the most radiant beings can fall from grace.
Exactly.
I mean, if an angel can fall, any of us can.
For sure.
So, you know, one of the things that I thought was really interesting in this video is how they start out talking about Lucifer before the fall.
Right.
And they, you know, they make a really big deal about how it wasn't just beauty. You know, he wasn't just like a pretty angel.
Yeah.
You know. No. This guy had it all.
Yeah. High rank. Leadership.
Brilliant.
Yeah, they said he radiated.
Radiating brilliance.
I mean, he was like
the top of the top.
Heaven's rock star, you know?
For sure.
What did you think about that?
I thought that was a great point. Like, he had everything going for him.
He did.
There was no lack in his life.
No.
He wasn't like, you know, a low-level angel or anything.
Yeah.
This guy was at the top.
Yeah.
And that's why the fall is even more impactful.
Yeah. And so that's what I was thinking, too. Like, what was it that made him rebel?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Right.
Like, what could possibly possess an angel?
With everything.
With everything.
Yeah. To go against God.
And the video made a really interesting point.
Yeah.
About how he was kind of like a reflection of God's light. Almost like a perfect image of God.
Like a mirror.
Yeah. And so it's like, why would you rebel against that? Like,
right. It's almost like looking in a mirror and seeing perfection, and then instead of being inspired by it, you feel the need to
outdo it.
Yeah. Compete with it.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was a really cool way of looking at it. And
yeah, and a lot of interpretations.
Yeah.
See Lucifer's downfall stemming from that seed of pride.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Like instead of just being content with what he had, he had this burning desire to be equal to God or even greater than God.
And that's what gets so complicated, right?
Right.
Because, you know, we always hear like, oh, take pride in your work.
Yeah, pride isn't always a bad thing.
Take pride in what you do.
Right.
But where's the line?
Right. Where's that line?
You know, between good pride and bad pride.
I mean, I think it's a fascinating question, right? And it's something that I think everybody struggles with.
Totally.
Where does that line get blurred?
Yeah.
Because, you know, a little bit of pride can be motivating.
Right.
It can help you achieve things.
Right. It can make you want to do a good job.
But when does it tip over into that lust for power?
Yeah. And the video kind of talked about that, too, a little bit. They were saying how it's like it wasn't just that he had pride in himself.
Right.
It was that he wanted to usurp God's authority.
He wanted to be worshipped.
He wanted to be worshipped.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
it's one thing to, you know, be proud of your own accomplishments.
Right.
But it's another thing to want to take
it from somebody else.
Take it from somebody else and to demand that kind of adoration and worship that rightfully belongs to God.
So that's really interesting, too, because it's like, I mean, was it all about just raw power?
Yeah.
Or was it about, like, getting that validation in worship?
The need for validation is a powerful thing. I mean, I think we see that even in our own lives.
Totally.
You know, people doing all sorts of crazy things just to get...
To be liked.
To be accepted, to be...
You got followers.
To get followers, exactly. Right. So you can imagine on a cosmic scale...
Right.
You know, with an angel like Lucifer, that need for validation could be...
Huge.
Absolutely huge.
And so, you know, obviously it led to...
A full-blown celestial coup.
A full-blown...
Rebellion. No, right?
This is like...
Taking it to a whole other level.
Of ultimate office drugs.
The ultimate...
Yeah.
So he gets a third...
Yeah, a third of the angels.
Of heaven's angels.
On his side.
To join his cause.
Think about that.
I know, it's crazy.
A third of all the angels in heaven.
It's a lot of angels.
That's a lot of convincing. That is a lot of convincing. And so the video showed this, like, really cool battle. You know, this epic battle.
Yeah, the epic battle between good and evil.
Between good and evil.
Yeah.
With the Archangel Michael.
Right, leading the forces of God.
Leading God's forces.
Against Lucifer.
It really makes you think, like, what were the arguments?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like, what did Lucifer say to convince, you know, all these angels to turn against God?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about the kind of charisma and the persuasion that he must have had to convince these angels.
These beings of pure light.
Beings of pure light to rebel against their creator.
I mean, that's not an easy thing to do.
No.
Right.
And it wasn't like a spur-of-the-moment decision.
Right.
This was a calculated campaign driven by a very powerful ideology.
But, even with all that, he lost.
In the end.
The rebellion failed.
Yeah.
And they cast him out of heaven.
He gets cast out of heaven.
He falls from grace.
And that's where we see the creation of hell.
And that's where we see the creation of hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the video does a really good job of illustrating that cause and effect.
Yeah.
It's not simply punishment.
Right.
It's a consequence of Lucifer's own choices.
Mm-hmm.
He rejected heaven's light and created a realm that reflects his inner state.
Yeah, I thought that was so interesting how they talked about that.
Like,
darkness, rebellion, separation from the divine.
Right, like all of those things that he was now embracing.
And he becomes Satan.
Lucifer becomes Satan.
The adversary.
The adversary.
I mean, it's so interesting how it's not just a fall from grace.
It's not just a demotion. It's a transformation.
It's a transformation of identity.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think that name change reflects this new reality of his?
Names are powerful.
Yeah.
And to go from Lucifer, which means light bringer.
Light bringer. To Satan.
To Satan.
Which means the accuser, the opponent. Mm-hmm. It really shows that shift.
It shows like a complete...
A complete
180.
180.
Right.
Yeah.
Like he goes from
reflecting God's light.
Reflecting God's light.
To actively
working against it.
Working against it.
Spreading lies.
Embodying that darkness that he created.
It's pretty powerful.
It's a powerful story.
It is a powerful story. And I think it's, more than just a fairy tale.
Right.
I think it's a cautionary tale.
Absolutely a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we talked earlier about how pride isn't inherently bad.
Right.
But this really shows how, that unchecked ambition.
Yeah, unchecked ambition and pride. Can have devastating consequences.
Right.
Not just for yourself.
Not just for yourself.
But for everybody around you.
Potentially everyone around you.
Right. Yes.
It's a real
reminder.
Even the most radiant beings. Can be susceptible to these things.
To pride, to the desire for power.
To pride, to the desire for power, to, that need for validation.
It's a real call for introspection.
Right.
Like we need to look at ourselves.
Absolutely.
And, examine our own motivations and make sure that, we're not seeking
validation and power.
Validation and power.
At the expense of others?
At the expense of others.
Yeah.
And at the expense of, potentially, our own,
salvation.
Salvation, yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, the big question is,
yeah,
if an angel can fall, how do we navigate the complexities of ambition?
Yeah, how do we...
And stay true to our values?
How do we find that balance?
Yeah, that's the real...
Yeah.
That's the real deep dive.
That's the question.
Right.
That's the question.
So think about that.
Think about that.
That's something for all of us to ponder.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, it's been a pleasure.
It's been great talking about this.
Yeah, this is a fascinating topic.
I know, it's so interesting.
Always something new to learn.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
For another deep dive.
For sure.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.